Seriously, Bud is brought to you by OmniSend. OmniSend is a top choice for email and SMS marketing on WordPress, perfect for WooCommerce shops. Easily connect with customers and send out awesome campaigns every day. We'll be back in a bit to tell you about our other friendly sponsors. Hello, my name is Bree, and welcome to Seriously, Bud, a podcast featuring an unexpected conversation with someone from the WordPress community. And now it's time for our host, my dad, Bud Kraus.
Thank you, Bree. You know, I had so much fun last time speaking with Roger Williams. I thought I would do this all over again. Hey, I've got some good news. My ebook, Questions I Wish I Had Asked, is now available for download. Just go to seriouslybud.com to grab your copy. Now, I'll be back at the end to give you my thoughts about this week's episode. It's number 53, so here we go. Mervin Hernandez, welcome to Seriously, Bud. You would be an aviator if not for your condition, correct? Tell me about that.
Thanks, Bud. Absolutely. If it were not for my eyes not working the best, I would have been a pilot a long time ago, maybe even a fighter jet pilot, who knows. But yes, I have had an affinity for aviation for as long as I can remember. It's the name of my consultancy, Wingman WP, and for sure, all things aerospace. Yes, I'm a geek.
Yeah, me too. You know, I have a friend. He was a pilot, and he actually learned WordPress from me. Wow. I think I might have told you this. And for our audience, Mervin and I know each other. But I've had a pilot friend who learned WordPress from my training videos while he was piloting.
Yes.
So we became friends, and I've learned a lot about aviation from him, and it is really interesting. Navigation, how the plane operates. I just think it's fascinating stuff.
Yes.
So, I mean, I've never had a dream to be a pilot, but Topher DeRoja, you can drop names, okay? He loves aviation too and piloted small airplanes when he was much younger.
Yeah.
How about that?
And there's a lot of crossover between tech, science, and aviation.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to have a fair amount of nerd in you to go learn how to fly an airplane, all of the systems, and then in tech, coding as well. It's like, how do these things work together?
Yeah.
Et cetera, yeah.
Now, what about space too? I'm assuming aerospace, the space station stuff. Is that interesting to you?
Totally. Little known fact, I did go to space camp when I was in middle school. That was a lot of fun. I think it was one of the first times I ever, left home and went to camp. Mind you, it was just a Crouse town in our case, since I grew up in Orlando.
Right.
Cape Canaveral is just a stone's throw away over in Titusville. But yeah, it was at the Astronaut Hall of Fame. We got to use some simulators. We got to go visit the launch pads and a bunch of those clean rooms where they're assembling satellites and such. Oh. That was so much fun.
Did you say you went into the vehicle assembly building? Did you go into that?
We didn't really walk in there, but at Kennedy Space Center, they'll give you a tour of the launch pads. So you can get on a bus and you can go right around them. You go into the restricted zones. You get, as close as a tourist is going to get.
Wow.
And it is quite cool to see that stuff, a little bit up close and personal to see the magnitude of the launch pad and the building. Yes.
WordCamp Cape Canaveral. Can't you see it? I mean, it's just, well, how cool. And, really. There's nothing there, though. I mean,
talk about launching a website,
Oh, wow. Mervin with the funnies. I mean, really. Now, I know you grew up in Orlando, as you just mentioned, and your parents are both from Puerto Rico. Did they meet there and then move to the United States? Tell me about that.
Yeah, they did. They're native Puerto Ricans. I grew up in Orlando, and they are both Hispanic. They've done a pretty good job with 3 kids, and all 3 of us. I'm a tech guy. I have my MBA. My little brother got a mental health degree. My little sister's just about to sit for the bar. But from Puerto Rico, we got to visit often. We still have some extended family there.
Right.
But for as long as I can remember, Orlando, has just blown up in growth over the last, 20 years. And going to Kennedy Space Center, we did that several times. And of course, Disney as well. We've had the annual passes on and off.
So I know that you have familia in Orlando, but does that mean aunts, uncles, cousins, all that?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. So my parents were kind of the first ones to come to the U.S. a long, long time ago, to the mainland, that is, to the mainland, Florida.
Right.
And not long after, our grandparents came pretty close thereafter, and then a couple of uncles, and we still have some family left over, but yeah, we have a good amount in Orlando.
Did they meet in Puerto Rico and then come here today? We did that, yeah.
Yeah, they did.
Pay attention, bud. That's the idea. Okay. And why did they come? Just for opportunity?
Yeah, so the visual impairment was a factor for that. I've been very blessed to be really successful and independent, but that was a large part because my parents decided, we need to go to where we can get him some help. He can go to school.
You.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Get me some good doctors, get me eyeglasses, large print books.
Yeah.
And all of that stuff is not really that available in Puerto Rico.
Did your parents have any idea before you were born that you had albinism?
Hey there. We'll get back to the show in just a moment. Seriously, Bud is made possible by Big Scoots. When it comes to WordPress hosting, there is no reason to compromise on service from your provider. Expect more. With 24/7, 365 live experts, Big Scoots redefines managed WordPress hosting service levels for clients, partners, and agencies. Learn more by visiting www.bigscoots.com and chat with a team member now. And by OS Training. We're thrilled to be supporting Bud's podcast and sponsor his exciting first ebook, Questions I Wish I Had Asked. This book gives Bud one last chance to ask a few of his guests the question that slipped away. Whether you're just starting out or already a pro, our courses and books cover everything from WordPress and Drupal to JavaScript and React. Join the OS Training community and start building the future today. Visit ostraining.com to learn more. And finally, by the WP.world, a great way to see who's in the WP world and what they are up to. Find out at the WP.world. That's right, it's the WP.world. And let others know what you're up to, too. Now, let's get back to the show.
They did not. So there's one other family member a bit removed, a couple of generations back, one family tree over, and my father's grandparents' side. There is another person that is suspected of having albinism some long time ago. However, 50, 60, 80 years ago, this was not nearly as successful, and people weren't viewed that successful when they had a visual impairment to that degree. So we think there's one other person in the bloodline, and more recently, she passed away about 2 years ago. She also had albinism, and she was my mom's cousin's one over. So there's a couple of folks that have albinism in my lineage, but it's actually very common in Puerto Ricans. Oh. Puerto Rico has the highest prevalence of albinism, yes.
Wow, that's I did not know that. See what you learn here? You never know. Yeah, of course, I have bad vision, and you have albinism. I think I'm whiter than you. Is that possible?
I've met some people that have more pale skin than I. But
is that so?
Just about all of them have been of really true Irish descent. So the Irish can be uber pale, and they do hold a candle up against the people with albinism. Yeah, right. But I have just a little pigment in my hair.
Yeah,
so I can pass off as Ed Sheeran on occasion.
Yeah, of course, easy to mistake. Now, beside the vision and pigmentation, are there any other symptoms or
albinism has varying degrees, and there's a handful of variations. Right. The telltale of albinism is lack of pigment in your eyes and or your skin and hair. Those are kind of the quintessential default definition of albinism. There's other types that have some autoimmune involvement. There's others that have lung conditions. So there's other evil albinisms, as one of my friends used to call it. So for me, I do have one of those rare kinds of albinisms. It's called Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome, HPS. And it presents with some lung complications later in life, which I'm still very blessed to be in the season of life where I don't have any real complications. There's also some GI stuff with other types of albinisms, but in my case, the most prevalent thing is just the eyesight, the visual impairment, and then the lack of pigment in my skin and in my eyes, which is the things that cause the visual impairment.
I know that during COVID, you had COVID pretty early on.
Did. Right in April 2020.
And that caused more than the normal problems, did it not? Yeah.
It was more worrisome than it actually caused problems. I thankfully didn't have to go to the hospital.
Right.
But I was worried sick that, hey, I've got lung stuff. I don't want to aggravate the lungs. I'm certainly very cautious. I don't think I've ever had pneumonia or laryngitis or anything like that. So I'm very cautious with trying to avoid respiratory conditions. But then COVID came around, and right as we were getting to know COVID, everything was just, it is the worst thing in the world. You're going to get put on a ventilator. We don't have ventilators. So I was really scared silly. And I got it right in New York City.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I got it right in New York City. My brother drove me straight up. I think we did it in like less than 18 hours from New York to Orlando. So my brother drove me down, and I just quarantined like super duper hard in the spare bedroom in my parents' house. And I just dealt with it. And I did have, of course, the telltale signs of COVID. I had the lack of taste, the fever, the night sweats,
the whole thing,
and the really bad cough. But again, very blessed and thankful that it didn't escalate beyond that. It was just a couple of lousy nights. We quarantined. No one else in the house got it, and just managed through. But yeah, for sure, it was just scary to think about, is this going to aggravate the lung situation?
I can't even imagine. Now, as far as we will not turn this into the albinism show, so don't worry, folks. But as far as your vision goes, what are the struggles? What are the things that you really have? I mean, I know some of them, but tell me a little bit about like what you can see. You can't see, what the problems are.
I've over the years, I'm happy to chat about this, and I'm an open book. But over the years, I've come to an explanation of the visual impairment that I think is about as summarized as I can make it.
Right,
and that is that the visual impairment that I have, it's essentially nearsightedness, extreme nearsightedness. So if you look at a picture or a piece of paper in front of you, from my perspective, my zoom doesn't work. So I can see that there's headings. I can see that there's pictures on the piece of paper, on the document, but I can't quite read them unless I hold it up very close to me. And that extends, of course, to daily life. I can't read street signs unless I'm like right under it. I can't see stoplights too far ahead. I can't recognize people unless I know them very well and they're close to me.
I'll cut to the chase because I know exactly what it is, because we have a related condition. Because the doctors that treat my condition are the same ones that can treat your condition, which is you lack central vision. Or your central vision is poor. Your peripheral vision is good because that's why you don't bump into stuff. But stuff like that's right in front of you because you don't have pigment, you don't have color.
Yeah, and I'm probably right on the line where I could probably get a driver's license, but I just know myself. I know there's other people with albinism that have more vision than I do, and it's just not something that's a good idea for somebody in my position.
I gave up driving a couple of years ago, and I should have given it up years ago, and I'm so glad I did because driving was very frightening for me, and it was I was only just one major accident away, so I stopped before I had the accident. Now, one last thing about this, and then I promise this is the last one, and you'll love this one because you've heard this before. The best thing about you being, can we say albino? Is that okay? Or is that slangy?
Yeah, that's right.
That's correct. Okay. Because I say albino. So anyway, the best thing about you being an albino is that you're easy to find. So wherever I've told you this 1,000 times, I go, oh God, there's Mervin. Because it's just
whenever we go to WordCamp, oh, where's Mervin?
Yeah, whenever I go to WordCamp, it's like the person that I absolutely can recognize will always be Mervin. So it's like really cool. I really like that.
I've heard that from a number of friends.
I'm sure
I
you
love
have.
It's an endearing quality. I'm for it.
You're sort of like a marker. Like, okay, where's Mervin? Okay, he's talking to so and so. There he is. And I can't do that with most people.
I can't hide.
I mean, that's kind of you're right. It's like a kind of a cool thing. Now, when you were in school, what kind of student were you?
I was a fair student in high school, middle school. I was a fair student. The first couple of years in college were pretty insightful, because you don't have the attendance thing, you're self-disciplined. So those were a bit of a learning curve for me. But as far as the accommodations, I have had essentially a golf scope. And that's what I used when I was in the classroom to see the board and to see whatever was being presented. So that was about the biggest accommodation that I really needed. I also had large print books. I also had extended time on tests, but the golf scope essentially was the thing that helped me the most. And I could take notes. I could do everything else I needed to do. So I'd say my first few college years were a little bit tricky to get the hang of things. But then once I got to my undergrad, my accounting degree, things got a little better. I got into the flow of the material, got to know the professors a little bit, and I did better once I got into my major. And then my MBA was all online, which was great. And that one, I got a higher GPA on my MBA than I did on my undergrad.
Well, now you say accounting. You have a degree in accounting.
That was my undergrad. Yes, it was just general accounting.
So you're good at math.
I'm a little good at math. I liked algebra. And speaking back to aviation, like some of my best mates, the first thing they did when they graduated high school is they went to physics. So before they got into aviation, they went into physics or a science degree because that's just what they gravitated towards. Yeah. But for me, I went into the business route, and I'm very happy that I did, and I did okay. The quantitative classes, some of the nebulous stuff, the kind of the high theory and math stuff challenged me a bit. But then once we got back to practical stuff, here's the accounting ledger, or here's like real big practical business reporting and calculations and stuff. Like I can work a pivot table real good, and
yes, you can.
Fine.
Yeah. I can attest to that. Yeah, I know that. And what about, now you said you have a master's degree.
MBA, Master's in Business Administration.
Wow.
Yes.
Boy, you've got the whole, wow.
I did the thing.
Now, what schools? What are we talking about?
Sure.
School?
So for my MBA, I got into Strayer University online, and it is the Jack Welch Management Institute. And I think some of the younger listeners might not know who Jack Welch is. And I just overlapped with that generation. But Jack Welch was a very influential GE CEO for many, many years. He's got a major reputation for success, for really, scorched earth in some cases, just dropping divisions that weren't successful and focusing on the things that were. And so he was very present in my MBA degree, and I got to attend a number of sessions with him. I actually got to shake his hand when I got my degree just before he passed away, I think a year or two before he passed away. But yeah, the online degree was ideal for me because of my visual impairment, but the material, I just really took to it really well. I was really practical, and I enjoyed it, and I apply a lot of it today, day to day.
And what about undergraduate? Where'd you go for that?
That was University of Central Florida. Go Knights. All three of my siblings, me and my two siblings, we've all done our undergrads in UCF and gone to other places. My little sister is the biggest defector. I think that's the word. She defected to UF to get her law degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rival schools, right? Yeah, but University of Central Florida. That was good. It was 3 miles away from home.
And how did you get to New York?
Yeah, that's a great story in my journey. I graduated from UCF with my accounting degree.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And a couple of years before I graduated, this is a very, very true story, I had a social event for people with albinism in Orlando. And one of the persons that I met, I don't think he would mind if I mentioned, Peter Correa, we became friends. We became quick friends. He knew I was going to school in Orlando. He was a little older than me. Both of us had albinism. So when I graduated, he had remembered me. We'd stayed in touch. We were both part of albinism circles. And he just asked me, he's like, what are you doing? Have you gotten an accounting apprenticeship in Orlando yet? No? Okay. Why don't you think about how to get your butt up to New York and you have a job? That was just about the phone call. And I was ecstatic at the opportunity. Why? Because New York City is one of the handful of cities in the world where people don't have cars. So I figured it out. I was like, this is a major pivot point in my life. It's a great opportunity. And I wanted to be in New York eventually. And here I am having the opportunity to do that in 2010. And so it was. I just figured it out, got myself to New York, figured out how to live on my own just outside the city in Astoria, keep doing the thing and learning how to be part of a team. It was that was a major, major opportunity to go from Orlando to New York.
So you did accounting in New York then?
I did. My very first job was with this person, with Peter. Right. He is the controller at a recruiting company, and I was working directly with him in the accounting office. Yes.
Right. I'm starting to put the pieces together. I know your story a little bit, but go ahead.
Yes. So yeah, that was a relatively short-lived in a good way, because I was working with Peter and just cleaning up a few things and helping him run the books for whatever 50 to 100 contract consultants that we were hiring and recruiting for, and doing all of the things to help him with his desk. And then the guys that were doing the recruiting, they saw this young guy that's got potential, is doing good work for Peter, and then they essentially plucked me out of Peter's office and was like, come here, we're going to teach you recruiting. We're going to teach you sales. It's time for you to, try something new, go into the deep end. And gosh, that was yet another, learning experience for me.
Yeah.
And business and recruiting and talent acquisition and sales. Like, it was just one thing led to another pretty organically.
Now, you did that for what, about 5, 6, 7 years? It seems
About
like?
7 years, yeah. And then I had the chance to pivot into the WordPress space formally.
So what was it that you saw in WordPress and that said, I think I'm going to pay some attention to this thing?
Totally. So I had been first exposed to WordPress back in 2009. And that was because I was volunteering for a nonprofit, and they were migrating out of Drupal. They needed to do multiple languages.
For those who don't know, and there are some people that listen to this that have no idea what this WordPress or Drupal is. They both are software used, but different systems, software that are used to create websites.
Right.
Okay.
Content management systems. They work similarly, but not really.
Right. Okay. Go ahead.
So we were moving from Drupal to WordPress. And I just really was taken by how much I could just understand the structure, the way that the modules worked, the custom post types, the behind the scenes stuff, the templating. It just made a lot of sense to me. And me and my colleague at the time, Matt, we just dove into the deep end. We created the website for this nonprofit. We built some behind the scenes solutions for them with custom workflows. And I really just continued to develop my own skills and teach myself. Certainly attended the meetup in New York. It was a really natural, this tastes really good. This looks so interesting. This has a community around it. I can go meet people and learn about it.
Yeah.
That's how I got into WordPress.
So let's talk about for a minute or two, the most important time of your life was when you met me. Because this is really a good story. Okay.
Seriously, bud?
Good one. And so I'll tell the story. Of course, you can tell your side too. So we were both working on WordCamp New York, 2018.
Yes.
And the Winstina Hughes WordCamp. And I was the speaker wrangler, and Mervin, I don't know, came out of nowhere. And I was working on the website for the event. WordCamps are WordPress events that are held around cities, whatever. Anyway, we were having one on New York, which was about 500 people.
Yeah.
And I was the speaker wrangler, and I was working on something for the website, and I spent a lot of time doing this custom styling and all that. And then I go look at it, and it's totally different after spending hours on it. And I went on our Slack channel, which is a way of discussing stuff. It's like an instant messaging system with groups of people. Anyway, I start saying who did this? And Mervin says, I did. And then I, texted back to him well, who the heck are you? I probably didn't say, who the heck are you? And I was furious. I said, you don't have any right to mess with my work. And so we started off together, not very well. Let's just say we were, it was a spitting match between the two of us, but good story, happy ending.
Yes.
By the time we met, we had already calmed down. And from that moment on, when we first met, we became friends. So the moral of the story is don't always take your first impressions because they might be wrong.
Well, and I think to credit the both of us, we actually is listen, we're here together putting on a really good event. We need to get on the phone. We're not on the same page, but let's get on the
figure
same.
it out.
So I think
that's the way to do it.
Absolutely. And it was really good that we were able to get over that. It's all right, now I get you, now you get me. All right, let's move on.
Right. So that's a really satisfying thing. When you start off poorly, then right away you hammer things out and then you become friends. And we've worked together on stuff. So what are you doing now? Okay, not right now.
Sure.
Working wise. Okay.
Well, now I think I'm coming up on 3-ish years at Savage Ventures is my primary client with Wingman. And with Savage, I've gotten the chance to work on some pretty big WordPress projects. They've got American Songwriter, Vice.com, Outdoors.com, comicbook.com. So I've definitely gotten to really sharpen my skills in the WordPress space with them. So beyond that, I operate a team and a consultancy for web and technology solutions. We've also got some chops outside of the WordPress ecosystem. We've done consulting on some hardware installs, some systems admin, and managing a couple of locations, like multiple offices. My business partner operates an integration into an electronic health record system. So for him, I really do like the product technology leadership behind the scenes. So managing all of his roadmap, all of his documentation, customer service, workflows, and debugging. To answer your question, what am I doing? I am just so grateful to be in my dream job. I get to work with WordPress at just about, the top tier of advanced solutions. I get to touch and consult on some advanced technology projects for healthcare, for a couple of offices and doctors' offices around the country. I'm just so blessed to be in my dream job and getting to do a bunch of technology stuff.
Now, why don't you tell our listener, or maybe there's more than one, who knows, but why don't you tell what I said the time that R2 camp said, we don't need you anymore, right?
Oh,
didn't they say that at one point?
You sure you want this out there?
The question is, do you want it? Yes, I'm not cutting this out. So you came to New York.
Yes.
And it was shortly after your separation from R2 camp. And you were concerned, rightfully so. And what did I say? What words of wisdom did you hear from me?
You told me that was going to be the best thing ever happened to me. I weren't wrong.
Yeah. Well, there comes a point sometimes when people need to move on and they don't really, they're comfortable and, they just don't want to move on. And then circumstances force them to move on. And many times it usually does work out for the better. Yeah. Which is so interesting. Now, I wouldn't call you a career changer, but I am a career changer. And I think changing careers is like so good, healthy. It's difficult. It's a little frightening. Yeah. But I think for many people, it will open their eyes to possibilities that they wouldn't even think of. And especially like young people who can do this, who may not have the financial responsibility of older people. Now, I'm not going to go anywhere, obviously, but I think it was a really good thing, even though it was not necessarily an easy road.
That is very true. That was yet another scary thing about, what's going to happen? Like, I didn't know it was going to be one of the best things that ever happened to me, but I'm glad that it did. It really brings to mind a quote I've seen. I don't know who really coined it, but luck is the intersection of opportunity and preparedness. And I really feel that that was one of those examples in my life because it was the right time. I had learned enough. I had my MBA by that point. I learned a lot about WordPress and I had just taught myself how to be good in WordPress. That situation where I had to transition out of that job was one of those moments. Like I had prepared and this was the opportunity for me to apply my preparedness in a variety of contexts.
I know you're like a code monkey, a geek, all that. Come on, you are, obviously. And proudly so. Okay, I know you are.
Right.
But do you do other stuff besides this stuff? I mean, do you listen to books? Do you watch television? Do you
absolutely.
Because those things are, pain in the neck sometimes to do all that stuff. But
of course.
So what kind of stuff do you listen to or read or whatever?
Yeah, I listen to business books. Listening to.
Wait a minute. Hold on. You don't listen to my podcast? I
do as well.
No, you don't.
I do. I just told you I did.
Right. Okay. All right.
I listen to some business books. I'm reading a Ray Dalio book right now, Principles. Got it from my little sister for Christmas because she saw me like Google it at the bookstore.
Right.
And it's actually really good. I like reading practical and high quality business books.
Now, do you read or do you listen?
Both. I like to do both.
Oh.
So I
mean both at the same time?
I have the physical book in front of me and I'm reading it, but I'm also listening to the narrations at the same time. I can't do just the straight up audiobook. I'm just speaking for me. I would get distracted. So I think my ADHD would not allow me to do that. So if I hold it in front of me.
Hold on a second. everybody in your generation has
Yeah.
ADHD. I mean, come on. Is that really noteworthy about you that you have ADHD?
Well,
It was invented for your generation.
I don't disagree entirely.
I know. I'm sure you don't.
There is a bit of that, and I actually,
Uh,
feel like yes, everyone has some amount of
Right.
ADHD.
Yep.
So, but
So do you have a severe?
I don't think
Okay.
in my case it's
Yeah.
severe.
Right. I don't either. Yeah.
So yeah, for me, reading, I enjoy it. I also highlight my books. I write in my books, so I have it in front of me and listen to it.
But you have to get up really close. So
Mhm.
you're doing it that way?
I'm doing reading glasses and the audiobook. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, reading is just really very difficult. And I like the audio because I can walk around and I can exercise, I can do stuff. I'm not restricted to sitting still and reading. So
To go back to your question
Yeah.
about what do I do and watch TV, I feel the same way about good TV shows. If I'm going to watch a TV show like Suits or like Billions, which I get really
Right.
deep into, like I want to pay attention to it. I can't be going to the gym and watching the TV show. I'm going to miss details. I'm going to miss dialogue. I'm going to miss cinematography and like stuff that they don't verbalize, and you actually have to watch it. So I really enjoy focusing on stuff.
Yeah, but do you have to get up really close to the television to watch? I would think you do.
Right
No?
behind me, the audience can't
Yeah.
see this, but I have a 65-inch TV
I can't even see it.
for the daytime, and at nighttime, I have a 100-inch projector
Is
screen.
that so? And can you sit at a normal distance or do you have to get up close for that?
I don't know how big my living room is, whatever, 15 or 20 feet or something, but yeah, I can sit perfectly fine on the other side
Really?
of the room and see the projector screen just fine.
Maybe that's what I'll get one day is a jumbo projector screen. Is it
Yeah.
as clear as like an LED or whatever, that
So
kind of thing?
at nighttime,
Yeah.
I did the thing
Right.
where I put the TV up for the daytime
Right.
because I open the windows and the TV's fine for the daytime, and then the nighttime I'll pull down the screen and I'll turn the projector on for nighttime viewing. I think the projector situation is best in a dark setting. So you got to have the blackout curtains, or you got to do it at nighttime.
Mervin, I almost forgot. I don't want to forget this, but you play saxophone.
I do.
How cool is that?
I
Tell me
haven't
about
busted it
that.
out for any WordPress events or social events, but here that I live in Nashville, several of my friends are musicians, so I do make cameos. And I've even recorded some background sax on a couple of tracks with friends. So yeah, I dust it off every now and then. I should probably hang it up on the wall. That's what I should do.
Maybe I should do that. No, I'm not going to use you for part of the seriously, but we have music, the kazoo
You
music.
want me to put a jingle together?
No, I'll stay with the kazoo stuff for a while, but because it's corny. I've heard you play. So what kind of music do you play?
I play a little bit of jazz with the friends around town. I do a little bit of everything. I just did a pop song. They just wanted some backup sax on. But I enjoy jazz. I did it in high school. I did it in college. I did marching band with the saxophone. So I just enjoy a little bit of everything.
Now, you don't play anything else, I don't think, right?
In middle school and high school, I played the clarinet. But then when I got to college, I just did the sax.
The dreaded clarinet. I played the clarinet too, and I hated it. I wanted to play saxophone because that's the cool instrument,
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, the clarinet is this, dreadful funereal sound to it. I know it could be, klezmer music or whatever. Do you know what klezmer music is? It's like Jewish.
I do not. Don't think I know that.
It's terrible. It's awful stuff, but it's got a cheery sound to it usually, and but I don't like clarinet. I do like saxophone. There's so much shit you can do with it. Now, what about something that a lot of people in the WordPress world do? I don't think you do, which is photography.
I can work a camera. My brother one of his side gigs is professional photography. He's actually quite good. I've encouraged him to develop his professional photography a bit. So yeah, I can work a camera. I know a good amount of, f-stops and good theory for photography, but no, I don't.
Because that's a geeky thing too, photography. It's a technical, geeky thing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't ask you, and I hope it's okay, but I'm going to do it anyway. We'll find out in a second. Your parents, they're both living.
Yes.
What did they do? Are they retired or no?
My dad's retired. He was a postman for a long, long time. He also was in the Army. And then my mom, she has been a homemaker for us three siblings growing up. And then some years ago, she went back to school. She got her HR degree. And now she is a realtor.
Oh, so she's working.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah. So did you guys speak Spanish in the home? I'm thinking that you
We did. Yes, absolutely. I'm actually fully bilingual. I have
I bet.
read, write, and speak. So
Wow. You're like a computer. Read, write, and speak, huh? I've never heard you speak Spanish. One day you and I will have to speak in Spanish. And did you live in a Hispanic community? Like, are there
not really. In Orlando, there are very big parts of town that have a
I
very
figured.
active Hispanic community. But
Right.
for me and my family, like we moved to the United States to Americanize. So we didn't go to Spanish speaking churches. We were just part of the American community.
Yeah. So, but there's so many people that, are Hispanic and they don't want to speak. And I've asked people this question, which is, why don't you want to speak English? Not, in a judgmental way, but just out of curiosity. And a lot of them say, because I like Spanish better, which to me makes a lot of sense, or it's easier, or it's more fun, or it's whatever it is. I mean, the answer was usually kind of like common sense.
Well,
what do you think?
My perspective is, and my family knows this, is you're becoming part of a community that is primarily speaking English. So
Right.
where I have a bit of a pet peeve is when there's the expectation that things need to be translated to Spanish. And
The other
and-
way.
well, I don't think that needs to be the case, or that needs to be an expectation from people that are native Spanish speakers.
Okay, fair enough.
So for my family, I'm thankful to say that everyone has, at a minimum, a functional mastery of English. And
Right.
even my grandparents could navigate around, ask questions, get their way, drive, and get where they need to go. But yeah, like we're part of the Orlando community. We're there, and we are Hispanic of descendants,
Right.
but we speak English.
And it sounds like your parents, their goals, if you will, when they came here was, we're going to assimilate into American society, which is
Absolutely.
largely English speaking. It's not that we're not going to ever speak Spanish. We are,
Mm-hmm,
but we also know that we live in an English speaking society world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they did, and fully did.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dad
Yes.
was in the Army. My mom she started her college in Puerto Rico, and I was 50% Spanish, 50% English. So it was like, it wasn't, we're coming to Orlando, we got to figure out how to go to the Spanish things. It was not that case. It was like, no, we're fully engrossed in English.
So I got one more question, and you've been this is really interesting because, like I've said, I know you, but there's a lot of stuff here that I learned. You were definitely one of these people that I know, but I don't know. So anyway, because we never have time to talk about this stuff, we always talk about, hey, did you hear about this function that whatever? So, about this filter or whatever. Anyway,
Gutenberg.
So please, just don't go there. So where would you like to go? Have you been to Europe, Africa, Asia, any of these places?
I've been everywhere.
You have? Why don't I know this? Or did I forget?
I don't know if we'd have talked since the fall, but I got to visit Dubai for the first time in October.
I don't think you told me this, did you?
I might not have. So
How could you do that?
Farthest.
Right.
That is not the farthest I've been to. I've been to India. So I've also been to India.
Yes, I know that. That makes sense. Yeah.
But I just visited Dubai for the first time. No, I've visited South America, Central America. I've been on numerous cruises with my family. I've been out to the West Coast a handful of times. I'll tell you this. The very first time I ever took a trip on my own was to Chicago. I was was it middle school? It must have been middle school, not high school, but it was in 2004. And I went to Chicago. I got on an airplane all by myself, and I navigated O'Hare, and I went to the National Student Leadership Conference. And that was the first time I left home, and I flew by myself, and I loved it. And ever since, like the rest, I've been to a bunch of camps in Florida and New
work
York.
camps too. Yeah.
Work camps as well. I was talking about like early, middle school and high school. Yeah. But since then, it's like, oh, yeah, Mervin's going. Where are you going? Okay. Yeah. You know who's somebody expecting you? Go ahead.
Yeah, I forgot. You really have gotten around.
Just this year, I was sitting down, I was looking, of course, I'm going to Orlando a handful of times because I got family there, but it's like I've got New York, Portland, New Jersey, Dubai.
Wait. New York? You mean
of course.
Montclair? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. At least once, if not twice, for some other event or meeting. Yeah, I've got a bunch of places. San Antonio, I visited that with my business partner a couple of times last year. Really enjoyed that. I travel as much as I can.
Yeah.
Much as I can afford.
Wow, good for you. It's good to hear. And I didn't know quite, or I forgot. Listen, I know too much.
Yeah,
I know
sure.
too much about too many people, and so I can't remember a damn thing. Everybody says keep something a secret. Yeah, try to remember, yet alone keep it a secret. Okay,
You gotta take notes.
so right, it should be the other way around. Try to remember.
Yeah.
Your friendship has been really special to me. You know that. We've been around as long as anybody, just about these days. So
Mhm.
whatever.
And I appreciate
You're
you as well.
Oh no, you don't. You're always teasing me and
Well,
old man.
that's how
and
I
this.
show my affection. How about
Oh
that?
please.
It's by riffing on you.
That's so cheap. Okay, so anyway, here we go. The last question.
Sure.
Who do you suggest I have in a future episode of Seriously, Bud?
Well, you know what? I'm going to give one of my colleagues a real big shout out because he has gotten to know me, and he is one of the people that thinks just so similarly to me professionally and technology wise. And he's been around the WordPress ecosystem for a good little while as well.
Now, hold on. Before you go any further, I have to interrupt. I should qualify this with people, which is I don't care about how good you are at development. It's fine, but I'm also looking for like good stories. You know what I mean? Like to me, have you lived a life that's kind of interesting and done a lot of cool things and whatever? So is this person going to fit that criteria? You might want to rethink this before you say the name.
Well, this colleague, I have gotten to know him, and
Okay.
he's the colleague that I went to visit in Dubai. So I've gotten to know him, and I think his life story is also interesting, but professionally, this is a person that just really is a deep and true peer. So his name is Faisal, and
I've heard you talk about this person.
Yes, he's been with me now for 2 or 3 years. Just an incredibly strong collaborator, and the biggest accolade I can give him is like we complete each other's sentences professionally so well. Like we really think between the lines similarly. We want to go the extra mile for our projects and our clients. And just personally, I got to visit with him and his family, and just such a warm person.
Wow.
It's just we just like doing what we do, and we enjoy talking to each other.
My problem, as I've said it a million times, I only do one episode a week. The list of people to do is getting bigger and bigger and bigger over time. I'm going to have to live another 30 years to get everybody in. It's just like there's an endless supply of people, thank God.
What a great problem to have.
Really. I don't have problems. I don't have problems. I give problems. No, I don't give problems. I'm really fortunate. So, hey, thanks for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
And I'll see you around. And don't forget, when you come to New York, let me know.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, I didn't know that Mervin went to space camp in middle school to satisfy his inner nerd. Would have been an aviator had it not been for his impaired vision. Got to shake hands with Jack Welch when he got his MBA, and is the only person I know who ever said that WordPress tasted good. Did you? Tasted good? That's a first. If you ever want to hear a past episode of Seriously, Bud, that's easy to do. Just go to wherever you get your pods. And until next time, thank you for your time.